Welcome back to Screen View Mirror. I'm your host, Emma, and you're listening to Screen View Thoughts. Today on the podcast, we'll talk about filmmaking and directing more in particular, and I'm delighted to reintroduce Patrick back to the channel. Patrick, it's great to have you back.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Screen View Mirror is like coming to be a bit of a second home on the internet for me or something, so that's quite fun. And I think this is going to be the first time that I'm officially interviewed as a quote filmmaker, so I'm very, very excited about that.
Well, I am delighted as well. So, today we'll be delving into what it means to be a young filmmaker, and hopefully, those who want to pursue a career in directing or who are thinking about just starting and making videos and films and shorts and whatnot will be able to learn from Patrick's experience so far. So, let's get right to it. Now, my first question to you is what sparked your interest in film?
Well,
And more importantly, is there a moment in which you thought, right, this is what I want to do. I want to make movies?
so that's actually quite a fun question because I feel like so many of my earliest memories are like connected to film and storytelling. Like I remember when I was a kid, playing with my toys and my action figures, whatever. I would always kind of feel this urge to like tell a story with them. And so yeah, I feel like that's always been in me from a young age. And that moment where it really became film and movies was that I would always like be watching kind of the same cartoons over and over again. And one day my brother got kind of sick of it. He was like, can we watch something else? So my family showed me one of the Star Wars movies, and it just like it was crazy because it like took me into space, and that was like not something I
Right.
thought was possible. So like yeah, it was. I think that was the moment where I was really like, okay, my life is movies now.
Right. Okay. And was there ever a moment in which you thought, okay, I want to be on the other side of the screen, so to speak, or behind the camera and actually shoot movies, or did you kind of roll into the process organically?
Yeah, I think it was pretty organic for me because like even like I said, even before I really fell in love with movies, there was already that urge to like create and tell a story and all that. So I mean, as much as this is gonna make me sound like a massive Star Wars geek, and you know what, that's fitting. I feel it was pretty organic because the first like short film I ever made, which is like lost in a digital ether somewhere, like in a old like home digital video camera shoved away in a box somewhere that I'll never find again, was like a Star Wars fan movie I made. It was my dog was playing a character. It was like with little lightsaber toys. So I mean, pretty much the moment I fell in love with movies, I was like, okay, I will make some now.
Nice, nice. So I think the lesson there for other people as well is that you don't necessarily have to have an epiphany sort of black and white moment where you go like, okay, this is what I want to do. You can sort of always naturally feel like, okay, I want to make movies, or let's take my phone and make a short. There's no I don't think
Mhm.
there's necessarily, or at least not for everyone, a moment where they have some sort of enlightenment and they realize, oh, now I'm gonna become a filmmaker. It sort of just happens, I guess, more naturally. But anyway, next question. So, in terms of the work you've done so far, and I've seen some of your shorts, some of them were quite funny. I quite liked those. Um, my first question to you is if you had to attribute yourself a genre, what would it be?
That is a great question. Particularly because I don't like I tend to not like try to stick myself to just one like as much as I can, just because I like to play around.
Exactly. That's why I asked
There's
that
like
question. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's a really good question because like first of all, in the sense like I like to touch on different genres, but I
Mm,
also enjoy blending them together as much as I can. I think I'm going to go on a very very brief tangent here about genre, just as a concept,
go for it.
because I think genre as a representation of the feelings of a film and like how those feelings develop is fascinating. But oftentimes, it becomes an attempt to try to put movies into boxes as
Yeah.
much as possible. So your brain kind of comes up. like, with culturally the ideal horror movie, the ideal comedy. So like that's my love hate relationship with genre a little bit. But I think I try to touch on all of them, but I do think I tend to I tend to come back most, like, personally in my heart, to horror movies, I believe.
Okay.
They're the ones I like watching the most. They're the ones I like thinking about making the most. And yeah, I think it's just I think there's something really strong about, what we fear. So I think that's something that I like to come back to. But, I also, as you mentioned, I like dabbling. I like laughing too.
So far, I've seen the movie with the banana called The Last Banana, and I thought that was
That's
very, very funny, especially the moment where they asked for the coats to go outside. Anyway, I'll link everything down below, but that was a very funny one. And I think you mentioned that it was a film that you did for class, but
yeah.
outside of that kind of requirement, was there any story that inspired that, or like what brought you to making that absurdly comical short?
So actually, it's funny you should ask that because I just remembered that initially I had written a script for a short I wanted to make with my brother. Like, I wanted to do this. I had a similar thing called, like, The Last Bar or something like that, where, like, my brother and I would be, like, in, like, a snack mood, and we'd, like, open the pantry and it'd be, like, full of food, but we'd act like there was nothing there, and we both wanted the one last granola bar. We'd have this, like, crazy absurd fight, and it was going to end with, like, him falling off of the deck and, like, onto, like, a lawnmower that my dad's, like, moving, and then, like, my dad gets sprayed with blood. It was going to be this whole thing. But, like, I never ended up doing it, and it was one of those things where, when we were assigned to, like, make a film for a class I was taking, it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, I already have a script that's, like, kind of
Right.
fun. I'll just, like, tweak it, make it a bit more, like, reasonable to shoot. And I don't think I had any granola bars left in my house, so I just decided a banana was funnier. I went with the
Right. So you
banana
just
instead.
recycled the idea. That's nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
a classic recycle. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's this other film called Contents, I believe, where the
Mm.
action scene was also very comically absurd. And toward the end, it got me thinking what was in that briefcase. And I feel like, I don't know, was that the script to the movie? You probably won't comment, but was that the
That was
script?
that was the script for the movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, makes
I
sense.
originally it was very much because I shot that film like a few years before I finished editing it. I got very lazy on that one because,
Mm,
like, it was just like me testing the waters a little bit. And actually, what was originally in that briefcase, fun fact, it was a very like fake deep reveal. It was very like, I'm 14 and this is deep.
okay.
Inside the briefcase was just a bunch of money. It was just like a bunch of money,
Okay.
and and it, like,
Okay, I
I
think
like
putting the
was editing it
script.
again, like,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
The
I,
script is a must. Yeah,
yeah, I just feel like putting the script in there is a kind of like a commentary on cinema, something
hmm
something treasured and something that you want to sort of take care
hmm
of. And that would be your
yeah,
your script writing and your filmmaking and all that. So that's a nice
yeah.
little
No,
little commentary there.
if it came instead, like, yeah, because the guy at the beginning says something like, if that briefcase falls into the wrong hands, the results will be catastrophic. And, like,
Right.
so, like, the idea of, like, it being money was, like, fine. It's like, oh, okay, money makes the world go round, etc. It's a good, like, theme, but it's been done to death. So I was like, I think, like, the preciousness that we have about our scripts was a more interesting way to go at the end.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you take the idea of not just the script for your short in particular, but a script, right? The idea of words.
Yeah,
If certain words go into the wrong hands, that could be the commentary there that, like, if the briefcase of words, right? If Pandora's box falls into the wrong
there you go.
hands, the results would
Exactly.
be catastrophic. Exactly.
Totally.
Okay.
I also
Um
think it's fun that you've mentioned you've the two films you mentioned so far are the two action ones I've made so
right.
far, and I think that's worth mentioning because something that might not come off as super obvious, but, like, another thing that I do apart from just making films is that I'm also a karate instructor. I've been doing karate for,
Oh
like,
wow.
years and years, so I have, like, a third dan black belt. So that's why the I enjoy
Nice.
shooting a fight scene every now and then. I kind of can incorporate some of the martial arts background into the filmmaking, which is like a nice little blend of passions, if you will. So yeah,
That's
action
really
is another
cool.
genre that, yeah. So action is another genre that kind of I tend to gravitate towards just because, I might as well. I have the repertoire.
No, yeah, because when I was watching both of the action shorts, I thought, okay, I mean, I understand that it's like a short that you have to make for class and stuff, so you're obviously not going to have access to all of the sort of like editing software and, resources that you would need to make a super well kind of edited action short. But I thought that the actual choreography behind that was really well done.
That's you can chalk that up to the martial arts background.
That's yeah, that no, I mean it was really impressive if I may say so, cuz
Like
yeah.
like for the budget level, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. Because on the one hand, I had like I saw the shooting thing and the blood that would explode, and I was just like, right, okay, this is like who killed Captain Alex kind of level, you know what I mean?
No, exactly. Yeah, literally.
Which no, but the thing is, that's kind of that added to the comedy in many ways. I feel like it really
Absolutely.
complemented
Who
the
killed
show.
Captain Alex is pure cinema. So
No, but there was that on the one hand, but on the other hand, I was like, okay, wait, hold up, this is really good choreography. So yeah, but anyway, it was very fun to watch, and I laughed a lot, and it was just I think a really nice kind of playful sort of debut messing around kind of short to
yeah,
make, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, they were a lot of fun. I enjoyed those.
And then another thing that I really enjoyed is the reference to that scene in Clockwork Orange in your movie titled in your short titled Meat. That was very like the thing. So with Meat, the whole time I felt so uncomfortable, and I don't know if that was
Mhm.
your intention to make the audience feel
Mhm.
kind of uneasy. I'm
Mhm.
assuming it was.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah, big
yeah,
time.
but it worked. It worked. I didn't like I almost like didn't want to watch it because it made me feel so uncomfortable, and like at first when she was chopping the I think it was chicken on the board, I was like, okay,
Hmm.
what is she trying to achieve with that? And then the low key lighting, and just then the chewing, it was weird. It was very weird and like uncomfortable, but in a good way, because
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
like when you're making movies, and I think you'll agree with me, you're not always responsible to make the audience feel good.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
definitely.
part of
Sometimes,
entertainment,
sometimes, in fact, you respond.
exactly, you're responsible to sort of make them think or make them feel
Yeah.
scared if it's a horror genre, etc. So I think that you achieved a very good level of audience discomfort with that film in a positive way. And I feel like from the shorts that I've seen so far, I definitely think that if we could attribute a genre to you, it would be comically absurd. But to be fair, I haven't
Mm.
seen everything.
Oh yeah, yes, I'm on board with this. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a
comically
lot.
absurd. Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think Meat is one that like all of my friends who watched it, all the reception I got was just a whole bunch of people telling me I hated watching that, and I was like so uncomfortable, and like I felt so gross, and I'm like that was like that made me so happy because that was exactly what I was going for. So it was really really nice to like see that it kind of worked. Like it's interesting to see how different people respond to it, especially that ending, which I know you had a theory that you
Yeah.
asked me
So
about.
I thought, wait, so is the conclusion that there is supposed to be a person sitting there, but the person was eaten by one of the guys at the table? I don't know. So, but the whole thing to me was very absurd, very, really painful to watch.
It's a psychologically unpleasant one for sure. Yeah, it's also interesting to a Clockwork Orange for that one because I mean, first of all, the tones are similar for
Mm.
sure. Just that like overall sense of discomfort. But the Clockwork Orange did inspire something else for another one too, which I'll circle back to. But yeah, I think that ending is so interesting because like everyone had so many different responses to it and like theories for it. Some of them I hadn't even thought of. I know sort of more or less like what it means for me, but like I'm gonna go into my David Lynch era about that one and refuse to elaborate. So I think it's fun to see like
Different
I think it's
takes
a moment.
on.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's a
Okay.
moment that invites you to project on it a lot. So it's interesting to see what different people are projecting onto it. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. So, what were the other theories that people have told you on the ending of that short?
So some people have told me, well, my brother and my mom, who are the other two characters who act in it with me,
Oh, right.
um,
Okay.
they they know that that seat is usually where my dad sits, and he was at work while we were shooting. So they to them they read that as like a the father figure is like missing or something, So it's like a sort of some sort of like Freudian like point about like the guiding father figure is missing, so they descend into chaos or something like that. Some other people are like just the fact that there was another family member, and they also assumed father, even though they didn't know for a fact that that's his seat. That that they like cut and eat, so they're like eating someone else who lives there. I think someone said that like we were eating the dog or something. Like there's a lot of like conflicting ideas about that ending, and it's quite fun to see how what is someone what's someone going to project onto this, because I think it invites that a lot.
Right.
It's
Okay, that's interesting.
a
Yeah, it
mirror,
is
if you will.
a screen view mirror. Yeah. Okay. Next video essay. Meat.
Yes,
By
absolutely.
Patrick.
Um,
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. So there is one short that I haven't seen. So I watched the teaser trailer for it though, but I still haven't had the chance to watch it. And that's the one that I want to ask you about how, because it's the longest one as well on your channel, from what I saw. What was the process for that? Like, walk me through the kind of production and how did it all kind of work out and what didn't go as planned if it didn't go as planned? Like, walk me through that. And I think it's called The Arachnophobe, right?
yes,
Mm,
the arachnophobe. That is correct. So I think that one was my most like personally creative, like stream of consciousness kind of film, if you will, like in the sense that all the others, like there was two that were for class, etc. And this one, the arachnophobe, for me was the most like creatively fulfilling, I think,
right.
because it was really just like a random idea I got out of nowhere of like my idea was really just I feel like writing a horror script right now,
Okay.
and I just kind of sat down and started writing, and a lot of the process creatively came from like trying to play with genre tropes as much as I could, like what does an audience expect from a horror movie, and how can I
Right.
use that kind of against them, to like make
Okay.
them feel
Okay.
even
I
more
see.
uncomfortable.
Oh no,
So
it's the
there's
discomfort again.
yeah, but like in a much more surreal way than meat, and I
Mm,
think it that actually accentuates some of the absurdity that you're talking about in some ways.
yeah.
I think it's my most like interesting. I think it's the one I'm most proud of. But yeah, I think basically what happened was I wrote the script. It was like my longest script, and I was like, okay, this I'm like really proud of this one, and I'm really invested in it, and like I really want to translate it to the visual. So I just like texted some friends who I knew could pull something off, like in terms of acting. Like two of them, the two lead characters I was doing theater with at the time. So and they're like close friends. So I was like, hey, do you guys want to do a movie with me? And the guy I had like a calculus class with him. But then he switched into film, so I was like, okay, well he probably likes making movies, so I'll ask him too.
Mm.
And yeah, over 2 weekends, they came to my house, we shot it, and I spent like months editing it. It was like an edit heavy project, but I think in the end it was really one that I was quite proud of.
What would you tell your younger self? And when I say younger, I mean literally like just from 2, 3, 4 years ago when you were kind of like
Mm-hmm.
starting out with all these shorts. What are the overarching lessons that you've taken so far from your journey as an up and coming film creator? And what would you wish that younger Patrick knew?
That's a fascinating question. Um, I think I think the thing I've learned the most in making stuff, and like of course bear in mind I've only made a few stuff, right? I'm still young in this journey and in all
Yeah,
that.
of course.
Um, I think I think the thing I've learned most is just to to not like give too much of a shit about like what you're supposed to make, if that makes sense. Like I think there was a time that was really like focused on making a film the right way, getting it
Mm.
right.
But there's
And
no
there,
such
I think
thing
I've
necessarily.
yeah, exactly. I think I've reached that point where it's like, okay, why are you doing this? Like if I studied science for a long time, and if I if I wanted to get everything right, I would have just stayed in science,
Right.
like, and there's more money in that, so why are you making films? But well, because you love it, right? Because you love watching films, you want to put your own voice into that cinematic landscape. And so I think the biggest lesson I've learned, and a part of me would kind of want to tell a younger me that, or any other young aspiring filmmaker who might be listening to me right now, is to just trust your voice, trust the film that's in your heart, and just make it authentically and have fun doing it, and make sure that it's really you.
Absolutely. And I think if I might add to that as a non-filmmaker, well, a video essay maker, I guess you could call me
Yeah,
that, but that's not, I'm not
works.
actually, drawing storyboards or anything, but if I
It's
may
like
add
it's
to that,
adjacent enough, it
yeah,
counts
yeah,
in my
it's
opinion.
it's
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 adjacent
part of
enough.
the umbrella of all that. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, if there's anything that I could add is that if you want to sort of start out making movies, all you need is a phone and an idea. You don't need
absolutely.
you don't need a fancy editing software or a big budget. You don't even need actors, let alone good actors. You need a phone
Hmm.
or a camera and an idea. And let it
Hmm.
be terrible. Let the quality be crap. Like, let the thing not work, because that's what you gain experience from, and that's what you learn from. And I mean, like, even watching from your shorts, like, okay, it wasn't the editing level, or like the special effects was not James Bond 007, but who cares, like, it's the
Exactly,
it's the
exactly.
entertainment and the idea behind it and the experience that counts. And I think that
Give
tell me.
Sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's so perfect what you're saying, because another important lesson I think that's relevant to this is give your film enough space
Mm,
to be shit. It gives it so much character and makes it so much more interesting when it's not this like crystal clear, super polished, like quote unquote perfect film. That's like if you're don't aim for that, because you'll never get it, and your
yeah.
film will suffer for it, because it's not going to be it's not going to contain that raw sort of authentic need to express. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and anyway, the perfect film doesn't exist. I don't think you will ever meet a film director who will show you one of their films and say that is a perfect film. They might say that's my
Hmm.
best film, but that there's no way that you're going to ever find
Hmm.
a perfect film. And even the films that we do call perfect films, in some way, shape, or form, could be tweaked such that they become better. So I do
Yeah.
completely agree with you with the idea of that, you should give your creativity and your artwork space to improve and space to be what
Hmm.
it is. And if it is a
Yeah.
low budget project, then whatever. That's still
Hmm.
amazing. And it's part of getting
Yeah.
the experience and the idea out there.
Exactly. Like if you I used to do this a lot too. Like if you search for like filmmakers takes and whatever, and like you're trying to learn about filmmaking in the sense of like how can I be successful, like
Right.
go get a business degree. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
don't do this because it's not going to work.
Or
Like
go
yeah,
into like
I
film
think
production or something.
yeah, something like that. Like I think um you're going to learn so much about uh your filmmaking and about film itself and about yourself if you just like if you let the reins loose a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what I did with my very first video essay, which was on The Graduate. And it's funny cuz I
Mm,
rewatched that
yes.
a couple weeks back, and I thought, "Oh wow, I could have done this differently. That was completely wrong. The editing was so bad." I mean, like, it's an upward
Hmm.
process, and it's enjoyable, and it's not linear. You're going to have
Mm,
loops, and you're going to go back and forth, and it's going to be chaotic, but that's part of the process. So that's
absolutely,
the idea there.
absolutely.
Yeah. Living or dead, who'd be your pick to co-write or co-direct a film, and why? And you're not allowed to say Kubrick.
I was gonna say, Emma, you know my answer to this one.
You're not allowed to say
Yeah,
Kubrick. So, because I know your answer would be Kubrick, but
yeah, no,
is there any
exactly.
other director that, and if there isn't, then that's fine, but is there any other director that you would hold in such high regard as to, but no offense, but I don't think Kubrick would like work with you or anyone because it's
Yeah, God
Kubrick.
no,
Kubrick would
God no,
never anything. So
absolutely. There's a
anyway, you
few
can't
names that are
pick him.
coming to my mind.
Okay.
I can't pick Kubrick. It's very important. He's definitely my favorite and my biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
But apart from him, there's a couple filmmakers that are falling into my mind right now in terms of I think who you could learn from the most. And I think I would want to work with these are just the names that are popping into my head right now. Uh, David Cronenberg is one. I'm thinking also Spike Lee.
Okay. Nice.
And the next two are a bit more oddball, but and actually we did a podcast on this one. Abbas Kiarostami
Oh, nice. Nice.
and Nobuhiko Obayashi. I think those are the four that are popping into my head that are the ones I think creatively
Right.
would be the most exciting to learn from, if that makes sense, and to collaborate with. I think they're a group of people like they're the ones that popped in my head. I think for a reason because there's a lot to learn from all of them.
Right. And I think it would like complement your absurdity if, for example, you went to Kiarostami or something and you said, "Hey, so I have this idea," and then he just sort of throws a can down the road, and you,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in close up. Okay, nice. And finally, in one word, what makes a good director?
Um, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say empathy, and I have a few reasons for that. And even though it's one word, can I elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I think, or empathy, or maybe understanding. I'm not sure, or
Mm.
like openness. I can't find the one word to encapsulate the one like idea I'm going for, but it's one of those three. Um,
I think
I think,
empathy makes more sense because empathy and like you can't be empathetic if you don't understand. So I guess
mm, yeah, that's fair. It kind of encompasses those other two. That's fair. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go with empathy because, well, first of all, filmmaking is about as much as you can empathizing with your characters and trying to understand where anyone's like coming from to really bring them to life.
Mm.
But also I think in a more like tangible sense, I think it's ironic for me to say this because I was just saying how Kubrick's my favorite director and biggest inspiration. That's definitely one of the things I'm not going to be taking from him as inspiration.
Right.
Like
Right.
I think it's a director's responsibility to really create an environment um, where every participant like feels safe and fulfilled, and like they can really dive into what they have to dive into. From an acting perspective, obviously, you're asking an actor to go to a very emotional and vulnerable place. I think you have to give them the space for that. But also, even the other people you're working with, your crew and whatever, it's important to give them some space to create like with them, right? Like they're not creating for you; they're creating with you. And most importantly, with that is an empathy to the self, also, to not
Hmm.
give your. I think there's so much self-help bullshit online about filmmaking, about filmmaking is discipline, and here are all these rules. Yeah, I think you have to be empathetic with yourself enough to you know to let yourself make some mistakes and to try different stuff out and see what works and see and listen to how you feel, and try to translate that to the screen as much as you can.
All right. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview, and I hope that the discussion has been useful for anyone who'd like to pursue directing in the future.
Make some films, guys. You got phones. You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, a phone and an idea. This was
There you
Screenview
go.
Thoughts.